Welcome to Camp Confidential, Beyond the Bars. I'm Katrina McLaren, and with my co-host Cheryl Womack, author, entrepreneur and philanthropist, we tell it like it is. In Season 1, we take you inside the walls of a women's federal prison camp. From pre-sentencing to navigating daily life behind bars, we offer practical advice, survival strategies and insights that no one tells you before you go in. No sugarcoating, no cliches. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Be sure to do your own research and consult a professional. Today's episode is titled The Prison Entrepreneur and is based off the book How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison by the Cheryl Womack, which is now available on Amazon. This episode talks specifically about the incredible ingenuity women have in prison. Cheryl, were you surprised to find that your camp was full of entrepreneurial women?
Katrina, I think the thing that surprised me the most about being in a prison camp was the amount of business that was conducted and the different types of business that was conducted. I mean, they had everything from tutoring to tacos. I mean, that you could get any kind of food made, you could get any kind of service provided. They had alterations, they had laundering, they could make you any kind of a gift. We bought plastic mugs that you had to have for your coffee or your cold drinks, but you could get them bedazzled in any number of ways, from painting to beads to rhinestones and the creative skills were remarkable. They had women who could do gift cards and other things out of paper products that were just like Hallmark card kinds of quality. Better. I mean, they were better. They were because they were freshly made, custom made, and they were originals. So I was pleased and surprised, and you could find about anything you needed. You needed your eyebrows stringed, no problem. You needed to get a makeup for picture day when they're doing pictures for some reason. That was available. It went on for everything you could think of. Partly, I think, because they were things that they enjoyed doing to fill up some of their time while they were in camp. But additionally, the need to make money was real and serious for them to have enough money to live on. And by it happening on the side through this prison entrepreneur system, it didn't go across your books where it could be confiscated first. So the money was, or the payment of goods was readily accessible to you.
So say you wanted to order something, and how did you pay for that? How was that structured? Because it's not like you've got cash.
Everything was paid for through commissary. Whether you bought them stamps, whether you bought them shampoo with a hair dye product, whether you paid for laundry services for a week or two, whether you paid to get them a massage, everything that you did, you paid for a service or you paid for products on commissary. And so what happened is when you would buy something, then the girl would go and figure up her tab for each of her customers, bring them over the night before, usually by Monday night, because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays were commissary days. And so by Monday night, usually everybody had basically their bills, and it'd say, I want a honey bun, or I want hair dye, or whatever they wanted for exchange of goods. And then when you went to commissary, would get that, and then you would take your products over to whoever you bought from and put it on their beds. Some beds could be covered because they did so much business, and some didn't have very much. It was staggering, the amount of business that went on.
Did you find it incredible that the women could keep track of all the accounting for this? Because it's not like you've got access to computers to be able to keep a running tally of what prisoner X owes you for this particular service.
I mean, I don't know how they did it. I mean, clearly everything was manual. There's no computer technology. You're certainly not going to put it on the system that you've got to keep track of it, where everybody's reading and looking over your shoulder. So you've got to manually tuck this stuff away. And again, some of it was really complicated because if you were, let's say in 1 week, you took in 30 plastic cups like this, a plastic cup like this, but it was clear. Mm-hmm. And so you've got 30 different people wanting either a college or a mascot of some sort, or they want beads, or they want their initials, or they want their name or their husband's names or something on that cup. And so you'd have goods that you'd have to buy to make those. You'd have to build that inventory. You had to buy the person ordering them would have to buy the cup and give it to them, but then they would take care of everything else and give you a charge. So then you have to figure out, what are you going to charge them for that? What's your time worth? What are the goods going to cost? Sometimes they might tell you get all the goods and they'll just charge for the labor, but mostly you just had to get the cup, because if they were painting it, they used paint for a number of things, or beads would run over. I mean, they did rosaries, and rosaries were done more like take beads that were bookmarks that were really pretty with little ornament things hanging from them. I mean, one of the hottest items to get there was door organizer, so that when you opened your door, people would knit them. and they'd be quite complicated. And they have little pouches where you could hold some of your smaller things like pens and small things that would be easy to get away from that you wanted to access quickly when you opened up your locker. So those would just fit over the door, and it'd be like another whole storage area for you to, put things away. And so those would go for $10, maybe $20, depending upon, how nice it was. So again, they had to figure out what you wanted. They had to build an inventory for it. They had to figure out how to buy that inventory in advance. They had to figure out who wanted what, keep track of all of that, and then get the bill to the proper person, and then mark off that they paid you correctly. It was a lot.
You can't deny that it's not an entrepreneurial spirit, because the women are identifying a need or a gap in the market, and then they're coming up with an ingenious way to fill it. We have discussed this, but there is a real shortage of good quality food in prison. So will you talk me through, like, maybe what your favorite thing that you would order from one of the women and how they would potentially cook it? Because it's not like they can go run into the cafeteria and cook up all this food.
Usually you knew through the week, you'd start figuring out over time who made what well. A girl who was just one section over from me in the alley, literally one bedroom over from me, made really good desserts with Hershey's chocolates and tortillas and different goodies in them. She might be candies in it. She might have marshmallows in it, but she made a variety. She might put caramel in it, a different variety of things that she'd roll up. And when you became familiar with what she had, then you would go to her and let her know, usually by Wednesday or Thursday, that for that Friday night when she would get everything, then you would want to get your order in so that you'd get it, because she'd get enough orders that she would run out of quantities. I mean, she might sneak out fresh apples and then cook the apples, slowly cook them in hot water in a Tupperware thing where it's just sitting in a bath of water to get them warmed up and stuff, and make a pastry kind of thing with the I mean, it was a remarkable, the things that they could make and how delicious they were, all fresh. It's also where you got food that had fresh vegetables, fresh onions, green peppers, fresh mushrooms, things that you'd never find when you were in the cafeteria to eat. So you'd have healthier food, but they had plenty of junk food too. I mean, they'd have ice cream, and you could get ice cream floats. A lot of pop was sold through that commissary. And so a lot of people had special blended pop for this and that and the other. But again, they had to buy inventory. They had to find a way to store it and hide it without losing it all. Because, you're allotted a certain amount you have, but everything you have is supposed to fit in your locker. That gets really hard to do when you're running an enterprise.
Well, when you've got all these side hustles, and let's face it, these are being acquired illegally, I'm sure, or the ingredients that are coming from, whether it's coming from the back door of the cafeteria or the loading docks, or however that's achieved.
You might be buying the chocolate bar, and you might be buying the enchiladas to make them and stuff. But if you're putting fresh fruit and things in them, those were definitely coming through the back door somewhere. Yes.
I know that if you have a certain amount of money on your books, your existence is going to be easier. So with the laundry service, for example, you were able to take advantage of a separate laundry service outside of what was provided in the prison. Explain a little bit about that.
They had laundry for you once a week. And so you could go in on your day and you have a huge mesh bag that you put all your dirty clothes in, and you tie it really tight. I mean, you can't believe how tight you have to get these things and wrapped up with your name bound on them, because if you don't, your laundry and maybe somebody else's who didn't tie it up well comes loose in with 100 other people's laundry in these giant commercial washers and dryers. And then when they come loose, because we all wear greens, whose are they? So you can't be assured you're going to get your t-shirts, your bras, your panties. Well, it's bad enough you're already getting all your stuff washed with everybody else's dirt and filth and whatever went in there. But if you could at least, as soon as they were done, if you got laundry done, you could pay someone to collect them once they got through the washing machine, and when they brought them back and set them to the side. And they had dryers inside the dorms, and these people would take the dryers, and I mean, if you wanted to do it on your own, it was a problem, because there was so much business conducted to dry clothes for people. There really was no schedule of time that you could get your own things dried. It was a problem. So, I mean, a luxury was that somebody would get your bag of stuff, they would dry all your clothes, and then take them and fold them nicely, not beautifully, but nicely. Otherwise, your stuff just came in one wad and dried together with, again, 100 other people's clothes that came in a bag that just sat on your bed and stayed there wrinkled until you got home that evening. So your clothes could be a disaster, or you could get them and they're pretty nice, not bad. And to me, that was a luxury that was well worth paying for.
Could they actually iron your clothes, or all the irons out preparing food?
Most of the irons were to cook food, but there were a couple irons that were in that same laundry room, and that you could pay someone to iron. That was pricey, and I don't remember how much it was, but you could pay somebody if you wanted them to iron all your stuff, or certain things that you wanted ironed. Like maybe you wanted just your dress greens ironed. Some people wanted their shirts ironed every time. I never cared that much about whether that was that ironed. I was happy I had them all clean.
Yeah, I think most people would be probably quite happy with that. For example, we're thinking about different things, when you're a woman, we care about our appearance to a certain degree. I know you said at the very beginning you thought you were going to be like, it wouldn't matter for the next sort of 15
That,
months,
that
but it
sounded
didn't
wonderful to me.
but that didn't quite work out that way. Let's face it, we all love a hair dye. I started going grey very young. I think from 11 I started going grey. So I'm completely grey now. So you were able to buy the hair color through your commissary and then pay someone to put it on for you, or how did that work?
Well, the first thing I bought, knowing that I had to color my hair about every 3 weeks, first thing I bought was the very first 2 weeks, each week I bought hair dye, because they also said sometimes they didn't have it. It ran out. It wasn't always available. So I always wanted to make sure I had the one I needed plus a backup always in store. Then what can happen is then you can pay someone. Now, again, it's illegal for someone, but you can pay somebody else to color your hair. You can go to the beauty shop if they have someone there who's on site to work in the beauty shop, and you can get an appointment in there at a time that works for you. But most of the time I was there. Some of the time we had someone there who worked in the beauty shop. Most of the time we did not. So you'd have to figure out how to work it out for somebody to color your hair in the bathroom. And it was a problem because you could get in trouble. So you'd color your hair, you'd sit all around, wait for it, go get in the shower and wash it all out, and then go do your own hair. Yes.
In saying that, you could get into trouble for it, but yet it was sold through commissary. So it's kind of a little bit like this catch-22, where everything that you're acquiring for these services from other inmates are actually illegal to provide, and you could get a shot over it and lose good time, etc. But yet, do you feel that there's a mentality within the system where they allow this to happen because they understand that for prisoners to survive in there that have a low income, that they need a side hustle to be able to survive?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think they definitely know they need to have a source of income. They also know they need to have something to do, and the girls are quite talented. And so I think more than getting a shot for having any of these goods, which could happen and it could be painful, worse than that is if the place got raided, or if you had to leave and they had to take your goods only to find out you had bedazzled things or things with your name on them or altered clothing. You'd lose all those things, which means for you, you're starting over. You're starting with the very basics of the basics. And let's say you've been there for 5 years and you've got 5 more to go. That is extremely devastating. I mean, when I just built up enough that I knew I had enough to just feel comfortable every week, that was a really great feeling, because it takes 6 months, 8 months to get there. It just takes a while to build up enough reserve that you feel like you've gotten there. I mean, and now you can say, oh gosh, I can go ahead and have a pedicure, or I can have a manicure, I can have both. And people want to set you up and schedule you where every week you were doing it. But if the guards came around and it was the wrong guard, again, it's good mostly when we had male guards, they wouldn't come to our dorms, because pedicures and manicures were happening every night and all weekend long.
And of course, you're capped at how much you can spend on your commissary. So that's why it takes a while to build things up, doesn't it? Because you can't just go in there all at once. It's not unlimited.
Right. And so the same is true that if you're buying services and goods, you've got to remember that you have to buy some things that you need, and then you have to buy things first to pay back your debts. You do not want to buy you things and not have paid your debts. It can get really ugly and be really uncomfortable if you owe people money and you're not paying them back, because they're not doing it just to be nice. They expect you to pay back, what they're supposed to get. I mean, one of the things you could get again from the chief chef or from somebody else in the kitchen is they could be bringing out fresh food or leftover meals and stuff, and you could put your order in advance to get a meal. Now, most of those meals I wouldn't want, but there might have been access to some better meals, or holiday meals could be prime, because if you could get your hands on a holiday meal and get one for that evening on holidays so that the staff didn't have to work at night, the guards and COs, then we just got sack lunches like we'd give prisoners when they were in countdowns. We had bologna I called it mystery meat sandwiches, a bag of chips, a piece of fruit, and a dessert.
On the weekends, they held things like markets. So explain that a little bit, how that was able to take place. I mean, the guards obviously know full well that this is happening.
And the guards were much more on site during the day on the weekends than you'd think. And I would be amazed. You'd have signs posted up out in the main areas in front of the alleys that would say, Alley D garage sale this Saturday. So you knew it was coming. Or somebody would post that they're leaving and they'd list all their goods and how much they were for sale, so that you could go and you'd watch them mark off one by one, as somebody bought them, to see what was left and available. or everybody'd come out, and the whole foyer area where you could get your drinks and stuff for hot water was just filled with tables and stuff set up where everybody was selling everything. They're selling things that didn't fit them anymore. They were selling things to raise some money for something else. It was a major flea market. And again, two things were happening. Number one, most of the things that were there are contraband through alterations. I mean, you take a cup that you bought from the government, that's government property. Even though you bought it, you bedazzle it, you have altered government property. That's against the law. I mean, something as simple as that you have to be aware of that you've done. But we would leave with our cups. We would take them with us when we came home. We'd ship them out, which you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make things and send them out. But the other issue is that you're not supposed to conduct business, any kind of business. Business was thriving. I'm telling you, business was thriving. And again, I was completely impressed with how professional and how well most of those girls could do that business.
So did you ever feel pressured into paying for someone's services for things, or it was quite organic how it all came about? There was nothing, you didn't feel like you were pressured into, buying this particular woman's treat on a Friday, or it wasn't in that way?
I'm not going to tell you they didn't have good hustlers, or somebody, oh, come on, you want this. Oh, come on, you got to try a massage, or, you're going to love it if I do that. I mean, they're hustlers who hustle their wares especially if you're newer there and you're trying to build up your customers, you might be a little bit more of a hustler. But I mean, one thing that sold real well was, hard to believe, but if it was somebody's birthday, they had people who they would pay to just basically bedazzle your entire bed and have big signs up saying happy birthday and stuff, just confetti and crap all over the place where you could barely get into the bed. There was so much stuff on it. And depending upon how much you wanted, there was a set price for it. And some people were really good at it and some people not so good at it. So you'd pay somebody and give them a theme. And, if you had a holiday or a birthday or something, then, you got remembered that way. So that was another enterprise that was going on. But where they got sometimes the balloons I don't know where they got some of this stuff, but they got it.
What did you have commissioned as such by the women that you may have sent home for people that you care about?
One of the things I did is I bought cards because I got there in summertime. Then I started trying to get ahead with the little bit of extra I had and bought I had to buy a birthday card for my husband and my son in October because I got there at the end of August, and then for Christmas. And I had, again, these mugs, and I had them all made out of something that they would love to have, like Harley Davidson kinds of things for my husband, and put their names on it or different things like that. So I sent them all mugs. I sent my husband a pop-up gift card that was 3D for his birthday the second year. That it was a big Ford F-150 pickup truck that just came out driving out of the car. It was really cool that the girl was really good at making. They're heavy and they're pricey, and it takes quite a bit of postage when they're a little heavier, because I think they put their thumb on the scale and they get more postage for anything than they ever needed anyway, or it's just badly weighted. I would buy gift cards. I would buy rosaries. I didn't ever buy bracelets or things like that. I didn't feel the need to have any of that stuff. But I spent more money. The things I sent home were the cups that I would get done, some rosaries that I sent and had done, and trying to think if there's anything else that I got done, and the gift cards. That I would do that for gifts.
Did you have any, like you were telling me about an artist that was in prison and that you just couldn't believe how skilled she was? And didn't you commission her to do something for you as well?
The same guy who did the pop-up cards, who was just amazing, who had a thriving business out of the gym 7 days a week. She literally did this etchings of both of our dogs. There were really a lot of skilled people there that thought of things to do with next to nothing that I never would have thought of.
Have you kept any of it that you actually sent back home?
I think little by little I have found like the mugs and things for my kids or my husband, and I've gotten rid of them because, they're keeping them because I sent them to them, not really because there's a purpose for them. And I think for a while I had my mug. I think when I first came home, I came home drinking out of my coffee cup because that's what I was used to. I mean, you do get very used to the things that you're doing. I think Dean probably has his card somewhere, and I have the rosaries. And I mean, they made little stuffed animals that were just amazing. Again, if you could work with prisons and get those little stuffed animals put on Etsy in care of the prisoners and put it on their books, they could make a decent living. Not thriving, but they could make a decent living.
So you have touched on this, that you're not meant to discuss prison business in prison, but yet women are encouraged to improve themselves and to get better education and go further. What do you think would be the key thing in prison that could help women take this skill set and then translate it to the outside world where they could start their own business business, whether it was in some sort of beauty therapy or anything like that, how do you think we could translate the knowledge that they learn in prison?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One of them, of course, now think about it. You can't run a business in prison, but I taught 2 entrepreneurial classes. So I taught you how to be an entrepreneur, how to write a business plan, what kinds of things you would have to go through in a night program for 2 different semesters, where we literally would do a business plan. Did you want to have a business where you walked people's dogs, where you babysat dogs? Did you want to have a business where you came and inventoried property in people's homes for older people who might be getting ready to downsize and get into a smaller house? We came up with several different business ideas and did that. But the other part that I think would be amazing is, I think a hard thing, and I have to research it more, but a hard thing is when you come out of prison, whichever prison you're in, you are not supposed to be associated around anyone else on paper. When you come out, even I had 12 months, and mine was a nothing 12 months, but man, I couldn't be around anybody else who was a felon on paper, where they
What does
were
on paper mean? Sorry.
on paper means that they say you've got parole of this much time
Right.
afterwards. And parole can be 10 years. I mean, a lot of them had 7 and 10 year parole, 5, 7, 10. I had 12 months. So during that time, I couldn't like go to a movie with somebody else who's on paper while I'm on paper. It's against the rules. You'll get in trouble. You can go back into prison for affiliating with them. And I think that they should be able to have I would like to see places where they've got a lot of these strip centers that are long and starting to become empty because Amazon and everybody else has taken up so much of the delivery business. Those spaces for small businesses aren't being used like they used to be being used. And I'd like to see cities be able to set those up at discounted rates for a group that would come in, prisoners who then could affiliate with other prisoners all on paper so that they could conduct businesses and perhaps bring in senior citizens who are retired to come in and help them hone their business skills, look at other ways there are to maybe manage their money, other marketing strategies they might have that would take them beyond doing business with the other prisoners who are on paper. That's who you know when you first get out. You often know mostly other felons. You get off and you get on Facebook and suddenly you have 900 friends that you knew in prison. You just do. I mean, go to my Facebook and they're all there, and that's fine. But
And
I'm just telling you,
potentially, if you're starting a new business, your first customer could be an inmate, but it can't if you're on paper, as you're
that's
saying.
that's my point. My entire point is that you're going to start with the people you know, and the people you know are on paper. And so if they could waive that, it gives you that opportunity to have some known customers to build a base. If you're doing hair braiding, Black women, Hispanic women, some white women love to have their hair braided. It's quite extensive. It could take hours. And so if they're going into a business, they're doing that and they're paying a lot of money for that, then they need to have the opportunity to market that to other people, but they need to have some base customers to start with so that they can survive.
I would say traditionally that maybe one of the biggest roadblocks for an entrepreneurial woman is probably confidence. How do you think in prison, do you think the confidence level changes when they're on the outside world versus in the inside?
These women don't have confidence when they come in. They don't have confidence while they're there. It's like they go into they don't have any confidence. They don't believe they're any good at what they do. They just do it to make money. I mean, I think they feel really affirmed when somebody tells them this is good, but you can hear them always downplaying everything they do. So some have gained some confidence. Most have not gained enough. What they haven't gained is they haven't been able to do is have anybody identify what all the various skill sets are that they are using that would apply to many other functions. I mean, the first thing you have to know as any individual to go out and work in the world is, what are your good skill sets? What are you good at and what do you enjoy? Most people don't even get that part down, let alone people who are in prison. So by having a class where you're just starting to learn those kinds of skill sets and then talk about other occupations where those skill sets might apply besides what you've got would help them have some confidence immediately. It's already hard enough when you get out because you're a felon and you're branded to begin with, and nobody's ever going to forget you're a felon. But it's even more difficult when you don't realize what you're good at and why you're good at it.
In some ways, it's a very difficult thing to navigate because the banks aren't likely to give you sort of loan money. It's like starting life from scratch all over again and having to face all these different battles. So what do you think when you come out of prison and women are thinking, right, I've learnt this skill set. Maybe she's learnt to be an incredible hairdresser. What's next steps?
Well, I don't think most women who do those skills in prison even think they're going to carry them out of prison. I think they think they were hobbies of things they did to make money while they were there. And that to me is the disconnect, that they've identified a few things that they're really good at that they could probably continue doing, even if they had a job for 13 to 15 bucks to 20 bucks an hour and they could do this on the side. They could still figure out how to make that a sideline business. They don't even think of it as a business. They just think of this is how I'm surviving in prison. Well, it's so much more than that. And that's where I think the breakdown is. And so again, I wish there was a way to have Zoom programs or something where you could get on and have, 50 women, 30 women come in on a Zoom call and go through Q&A like we're going on in here and talk about what does this skill set look like, and tell me what your inside hustle is. And let's go through what kind of skill sets you're using for that hustle. Now let's talk about in the real world, what kinds of jobs would that apply to? And I think learning to be able to talk like that and be able to communicate with potential employers or potential customers, it'd help you do better at your job as well, or help you, make more income and grow your business, help you know how to market it.
So, what did you think was the most surprising entrepreneurial job that you saw a woman do as a side hustle in prison?
Gosh, I thought they were all pretty amazing. I mean, I think you expected to probably have manis and petties. I was surprised that they did threading for your entire face. I was amazed that they had that. I wasn't surprised about anything they did with hair. I was surprised at the detailed extent of the nice alterations that you could get too, which again, how many people could come out? How often is somebody looking for a good alterations person? They don't even realize that's something they could do. I mean, it's sort of disappointing when you see how good someone is at those things, because you're buying men's tube socks. So you got to cut them off and get them darned so that they'll fit you and they're not hanging way out. And, they charge you $1 a pair of socks to do that for you. You need a pillowcase. You need a pillow. I don't know how they figured out how to get the stuffing for a pillow or how they made a pillow, but they did. I think I was stunned by where they came up with things for earrings and decorations. They were very clever with the things that they came up with. I think I was more surprised by the things that they had that was just black market than I was by, which again came out on the, entrepreneurials, because they, you had a garage sale, your earrings and jewelry and all the things. If you were going to go from one prisoner camp to another, you knew you weren't going to take those with you. So those would be garage sale items. I was just completely stunned at how big it is. I mean, it's a big enterprise. It's not a small thing to do. It's elaborated, it's complicated, and they were very good at it.
Thank you for listening to How to Go to Camp with Katrina McLaren and Cheryl Womack. For more support, check out the Women of Worth website, www.womenofworth.wow.org, where you'll find helpful resources, including Cheryl's books, Mummy Loves You Everywhere and How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison. Whether you're preparing for the journey or supporting someone through it, remember, there's guidance, hope, and a community ready to help you navigate this path.